You're listening to the Station 71 podcast with your hosts, Mario,
Beth,
Brian,
and Kirsten.
So this week we're going to continue our walkthrough of Magic Kingdom with New Fantasyland this time, talking about some of the exciting stuff in that section of the park. But first, let's start with some of our news topics of this week. Brian, did you want to kick yours off with the topic that you had in here?
Yeah, sure. I've got a little quick one. There's a new Jingle Cruise themed mug at Trader Sam's that you can now get that looks like a elephant with a Santa Claus hat on. That will be available on November 30th at 7 a.m. And if this is anything like the Haunted Mansion crossover Tiki mugs, they're probably going to go extremely fast. So if you want them, be prepared to get them early and wait in line.
This looks really awkward to drink out of.
It really does. We'll have to post up a link to the picture, but it's literally just like a ceramic elephant with a hole in the top to put the drink in, and yeah, there's no handle or anything really. It looks just like a little statue, basically.
Right, it looks more like a centerpiece item than drinkware.
Yeah, so definitely probably something you're going to want to just put on a shelf and enjoy, but it's there if you want it, starting the 30th, so.
Nice.
do people do things with the Tiki mugs other than put them on shelves?
I don't know. As hard as those were to get, I feel like I wouldn't want to even touch the thing, because people were going crazy for those when they came out, so.
Well, at least the Haunted Mansion ones looked like cups.
This looks like an elephant with a hole in it.
I don't know. I mean, like,
Pretty much.
if I had to wait that long for a mug, a special edition mug, I would want it to at least be usable more than the one time I would get it. Did they say what drink comes in this?
It said, although it seems a bit early for alcoholic beverages, like 7 a.m., but I don't know. I don't see anything past that, but that just seems like an assumption, not a fact.
Well, it's probably when you're going to have to get in line for it if it's anything like the Haunted Mansion ones. They're going to fly fast. It'll probably be sold out by the time they open.
You know, now that I look down at the bottom of this article, I think this might only be at Disneyland, though. It's saying
I think so.
Yeah, it's at Trader Sam's Enchanted Tiki Bar, the one in Disneyland, so not sure if that's going to be coming to the one at the Polynesian too, or not, but.
It's kind of weird since they're not doing Jingle Cruise in Disneyland this year.
Right, so I'm wondering if that's kind of like there, well, here you go. You get a very
Consolation
awkward
prize.
That you have to pay
elephant
for.
cup.
That's kind of like adding insult to injury, isn't it? Like, you don't get the Jingle Cruise, but you get a Jingle Cruise themed mug.
Yeah, a bit, but
Yeah. And it'll probably eventually make its way over here. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
So after that, we had Tiana's Riverboat Party is extended through December 31st, and select dates in January through the 6th. Tiana's Riverboat Social is the ice cream snack party thing that they do on the Liberty Square Riverboat. They just extended it a little bit longer just so that the guests could enjoy it a little bit more. The package costs $49 per person for children ages 10 and up, and $29 for children ages 3 to 9. And you get all of the ice cream, snacks, and stuff like that, and you get viewing for a Festival of Fantasy. So it's nice that they added that couple extra dates to have some more offerings.
I've actually read reviews of this that say that the view of Festival of Fantasy is really awful.
I can't imagine it would be good, but it's just cool when they add stuff that doesn't really take away from anything. So I'm happy for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is something that I would do just because Tiana's my favorite princess. Not because I want
Yeah, I don't think I would do it for the
parade
view,
viewing.
right? Because where would be the closest spot that it would go to for the parade? Because I feel like that's
Like
very
the-
far off.
Like near the dock, I guess?
I mean, I feel like you could see over people's heads, but
Right.
Yeah, because even like the bottom deck of the riverboat is like below street level, so everyone would have to crowd to the top, or you're not really gonna be able to see anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I just can't see there being a good viewpoint for that thing. But I guess at that point it's
Yeah,
not
me
really
either.
about the view, even though they advertise it as viewing for Festival of Fantasy. I feel like it's probably more for the character experience kind of thing. Like the one-on-one interaction for an extended period of time.
Yeah, for sure.
And lastly, we have new interactive musical exhibit coming to Epcot's Mexico Pavilion. I don't know if anybody else has seen this, but there is a Coco-inspired mariachi group that made their debut last week at the Mexico Pavilion in Epcot. And we got word that they're staying for a little bit, and they're opening a folk art gallery that displays some Dia de Muertos artwork. I am horrible at pronouncing things, so forgive me for that one. So it's gonna have some it's going to showcase various scenes from Coco and have some different dioramas, which is pretty neat. I'm all about World Showcase getting some more love and some more things to draw people into it.
and Coco is actually about like a real country.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Beth, we were talking a little bit before you joined in on the call. How did you like Coco? Because you saw it twice.
Yeah, that's how much I liked it. I saw it on opening night, and then the next day one of my friends texted me and was like, hey, we're going to go see Coco, do you want to come? And I was like, yeah, I'm in. It was really, really good. It was everything a Pixar movie should be. So I don't want to spoil anything. Have any of you guys seen it?
Nope.
Not yet.
Not yet.
What did you think about
Well,
the short?
I thought it was really cute, but my boyfriend and I were actually talking about this earlier, and it's interesting that it's not a Pixar short. And it's just
Oh,
like,
you're
it feels a
right.
little forced. Like, here's your Frozen. But I thought, other than like, I didn't even think about that when I first saw it, but I thought it was really cute. And I mean, Olaf is my favorite part of the Frozen franchise anyway, so a short
Absolutely.
about him is I'd prefer that to Frozen 2, honestly. But yeah, it was really cute. It was actually pretty long too. My boyfriend was saying that he thinks that they just made it really long so they could sell CDs and DVDs of it, but
But you also have to remember that Frozen short is 25 minutes, I think it's clocked in at. Which is,
Wow.
like, absurd.
yeah, that's got to be one of the longer shorts that's gone in front of a movie, right?
I can't imagine that it's
I
not.
would think.
Yeah, but it was cute. Coco was better.
I'm excited to see it. I definitely want to see that as soon as I possibly can.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it.
So are you guys ready to dive into New Fantasyland?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, I am super excited about this one. This is probably one of my favorite lands in the Magic Kingdom. I would say it's one of the most well-themed. What about you guys?
It's probably the most well-themed, I would say, Magic Kingdom.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's very cohesive, which is nice.
right. I think that was like one of my worries when I first started seeing things pop up about this was like, oh, they're gonna do stuff in Fantasyland and it's just gonna be like a hodgepodge of princesses, but it actually flows really well from like the different areas. So to start it off, I found some cool little tidbits about like the atmosphere and stuff. This is actually the largest expansion in all of Magic Kingdom's history. So it doubled the size of Fantasyland, which is massive. It's actually not very hard to believe that when you kind of look at it overall and see everything that's in here. But it's still pretty cool that this was actually the largest expansion that they've had in all of Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
Does anybody remember when they were building this land? Because I very vaguely do.
I definitely do.
Yeah. Me too.
I had barely started working there whenever they started construction. And we used to go ride Dumbo and like raise the thing to the very top so we could try and see over the construction walls. And there was never really anything to see. And then whenever I worked, I would pick up shifts and do parade audience control at night and like in the afternoons. And so we would take, I don't know if you know, whenever you're working at the Magic Kingdom, you park way behind the park and you ride a bus to the back of the park, and then you walk through the utilidors to get to wherever you're working. And so whenever you would ride the bus, the main like entrance to the utilidors is actually kind of right behind Pinocchio's village house, and so we could see like everything that was happening with Beast Castle as they were building that. Yeah. So that was really kind of fun to watch, you know, just as you would come in day after day and see it slowly changing. But yeah, that I don't have any super exciting, you know, memories from it. It was just cool to be there while it was all happening.
Yeah, no, that is really cool.
The only thing I really remember from when they were building this land, it's not even really the land, it's more Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, was I remember the construction walls around it, and they had that little tiny like peephole that you could look through.
Yes.
I remember the one trip that I was on, because that was the one that I think we went for like 2 weeks or something, like really long. And I remember like at least every day that we were in the Magic Kingdom stopping there once just to look through it and see what was different. But the cool thing that I found about this land as well is that they also added a bunch of live entertainment. I'm sure, as you guys know, I am huge on them adding like Streetmosphere stuff. And with the new Fantasyland expansion, we got the Royal Majesty Makers, which I talked about a little bit last week, and the Giggle Gang. I can't find Storybook Circus Giggle Gang, which I vaguely or feel like I remember them getting cut, but I don't, like, I couldn't find anything on that. So they added some stuff. They may have taken one thing away, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember the Giggle Gang in general.
I don't know what that
They're the
is.
clowns in Storybook Circus.
Oh, well, I hate clowns.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I feel like they were there for a while, and then all of a sudden they just like stopped them. But I also don't really go into Storybook Circus, so I have not seen them, and I could not find anything saying that they're not there. So they might be. Someone's gonna tell me I'm wrong though.
I do like Streetmosphere in general. Like, I feel like it's something about Disney that's unique, and so I try to at least stop and watch, you know, Dapper Dans and all that sort of thing, because I'm always afraid, like, well, if nobody's watching, they're gonna, you know, get rid of it, 'cause then they won't have to pay those people. Mm-hmm. So I try to take advantage of stuff like that whenever, you know, we're around, just because, I mean, it's an interesting thing, and it's really different from other theme parks, so I recommend that people watch that.
Right, and the people that are always involved in the Streetmosphere stuff are always just so good at what they do. Like, they're quick-witted, they know what things to say to the crowd to get them involved, and like I think that's just fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I really like the Streetmosphere stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, we have Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, which is our first attraction. on our new Fantasyland tour. This one opened after the actual expansion, correct?
Yes, that was the last thing to open. It didn't open until like, I don't know, was it late 2011 or 20? No, it was like
2014 is what we have on the notes.
Yeah, I remember, I think I went in July that year, and it was really, really new. Like, it was open when I went, but it was like the end of July, so I don't know exactly when it opened, but...
I feel like they did a lot of soft openings for that, too. Because I remember seeing people, like, posting on Twitter about, you know, getting to ride it or whatever. But I googled it real quick. May 28th, 2014 was the opening date.
Yeah, and I remember the first time I rode it was actually that July. I kept trying to figure out what trip that was. You know, you go on too many when you can't remember.
Exactly.
It takes you that long to figure it out.
But we talked about this one kind of last week too when we talked about Snow White's Scary Adventure. But I wanted to put this note in here as well that the figures of the dwarves are reused from Snow White's Scary Adventure. They're reused in the cottage scene on Dwarfs Mine Train. And there was another one, but I can't remember what it is. I feel like it was crows or something.
The evil queen is too in her old lady disguise. Right. You can see her kind of like knocking on the door.
I like that. I think it's a really good nod to, because I feel like maybe they learned after the whole Mr. Toad thing, which I never wrote it, but there's still people who I feel like were really bitter about it going away. So I feel like this was a good nod to people who do love Snow White's Scary Adventures. You know, they at least kept something around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't remember much of Snow White's Scary Adventure. I mean, like, I remember riding it and being, like, mildly terrified. But I like that they put this in here. And I kind of said this last week, but I like when Disney kind of gives you little nods to things that were either previously in that space or have some kind of tie to a new attraction.
Yeah.
So.
My only complaint with this attraction is that I feel like this ride is over super fast, and especially for the amount of wait that you normally have to do for it. Like, I know that they're a lot shorter than they used to be, but it's not uncommon for the wait to still be pretty significant, and especially when it first opened. And it's kind of one of those things that they're dealing with Flight of Passage, but I feel like at least Flight of Passage is worth the wait.
Yeah.
This is just such a fast, like, over and done.
I was severely underwhelmed about this attraction the first time I rode it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody else was, but I remember when they advertised it, it was like, oh, the carts rock a lot, like, that's a really cool feature, it's like a really cool roller coaster thing, and then, like, I rode it the first time, and it was cool. I'm not saying I don't like it, but I definitely think this is one that Disney kind of, like, overhyped a little bit.
I actually love it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Kirsten with the unpopular opinion.
My issue with it is I feel like Disney was trying to make this halfway roller coaster and halfway a dark ride. And in that, it kind of missed the point at both of them, I feel like. It's good and it's in its own right, but it's not thrilling enough really to be a roller coaster and excite you as a roller coaster. But because it tries to be a roller coaster, it misses some of the in-depth, scenery and like storytelling that a dark ride would have. So I feel like I guess they didn't want to just come out and do another dark ride, because that would be just like Snow White's Scary Adventures. But I kind of feel like it's basically the same thrill level, or maybe I'm not gonna say the same. It's a little less thrilling than like Big Thunder, but I don't see them needing another roller coaster like at that kind of lower end thrill level in Magic Kingdom. So I don't really see the point of this one.
So I kind of have like two things to say about this. One, they did what they could with the space that they had, I feel like. That's another really important thing to remember, is that like it does seem short, but they also don't have a lot of room to really go with this. But two, as much as they say it really underwhelmed me, the animatronics in this are incredible. I don't like the projection face animatronics, but I think that this is the only time that I'm like really okay with them, because they're not trying to be like super realistic people. Not that the Frozen ones are super realistic, but just the fact that they're very cartoony, it works for the dwarves, and it works really well, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
Well, I guess I am the unpopular one because I love this ride. I was super excited with the rocking just because it's, I don't know, anytime Disney does something that not everybody else is doing, it makes me happy. And anytime I feel like they're innovating instead of resting on their laurels, which I believe they have a tendency to do, it makes me happy. And so I enjoy that. And it's definitely not, competition for Harry Potter World or whatever, but I think it was a good answer. And now, of course, with Flight of Passage, that's a real answer. But I'm getting off track. One fun fact, y'all may know this and may not know this. The ride is actually so quiet that it would freak people out whenever they first soft opened it, because it didn't make, the traditional roller coaster noise. So they pipe in roller coaster sounds. So whenever people are like riding by and you hear that roller coaster noise, part of that is coming out of a speaker, and it's not actually the ride.
That's interesting.
Wow.
That's interesting.
And I do think that this ride did innovate with the whole rocking thing, but I've never like felt it. I have heard people that have gone on it and that have felt the carts rocking, and I think that's a really great idea. I just think that like maybe it's meant for smaller kids, and I don't feel it rock as much for that reason. I don't know. But I do enjoy it for what it is.
I don't hate it by any means, and I think that it's really well done for what it is, but like I kind of said earlier, my real problem with it is that I feel like it doesn't last long enough. So it's, I don't know, just not worth the wait for me.
I can understand that. I think that's kind of like my gripe with it too, which sometimes you can catch it at shorter wait times now, especially since it's not the newest thing anymore. So it's nice when you can catch it. I would say 40 minutes is a justifiable wait for it even, but I wouldn't wait 120 minutes for it again. And yes, I did wait 120 minutes for it.
Oh man.
I don't think I've ever waited 120 minutes for anything in my life.
It was when it first
For my
opened.
baby to be born, that's when I waited 120 minutes. That's it.
When it first opened, I was like, oh man, I have to ride this. This is going to be awesome. And I got off of it and I was like, it was okay. It's pretty good.
Yeah, like I was saying, when I went in July, like a couple months after it opened, the wait was like 160 minutes or something crazy. And I was like, like I was there by myself because my dad and my brother had come with me earlier, and then we were like, hey, we're gonna go back to the hotel. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not. And so I was like, I'm by myself, I could just chill in line and like mess around on my phone or whatever. And I just, stood there for like 15 minutes, and I was like, yeah, this is actually really boring by yourself. So I'm just gonna come back later when the park is kind of cleared out a little bit. And then there was like lightning or something, and they turned off the ride for the rest of the night.
Well, and the one thing we kind of missed with this one is the interactive queue on this. I think they did a really good job with that. The only problem that I have with it is that it's so far up. Like, you don't really start seeing the interactive queue till you start getting inside of the ride. But even then, that queue is awesome when you get up close to it.
This must be something you don't see when you take Fast Pass.
Yeah, I don't think you even walk past it.
I don't know. I haven't ever fast passed this because I haven't been lucky enough to get a fast pass, and
They're still really hard.
yeah,
to
they
get.
really are. But I think it's definitely, if you can catch it at, I want to say it probably starts around the 40, 50-ish minutes of the queue is where you start really seeing like the interactive stuff. It's neat. I wouldn't say it's worth waiting in the line for, like solely for that reason. But if you're there and you're passing time, it's really fun to kind of just play around with it and just, see it. And I think it's a really good example of interactive queues done right.
And I think they're improving, because one thing that I hate, and I do kind of remember it with this, is like going through the Space Mountain whenever you're in that interactive queue. Like, I enjoy the queues. I would sit there and play that Haunted Mansion game where you shout out the answer to the riddle all day long. But it's like, if the line is moving at all, for example, in Space Mountain, you play that little shooting game for 2 seconds and then you have to move. And so I feel like this one still kind of suffers from that, but they are getting better at, like, you can still move while you do it, because they have to strike a good balance between entertaining people who are waiting, but also not holding up the line, because kids won't stop playing the games and, like, go when the line starts to move.
Right. And the nice thing about this one, to kind of that respect, is that with the Space Mountain one, the game doesn't end until, like, the timer ends, and the timer is really long. This one, you can walk away being satisfied with just playing for it for a couple seconds. So I think that's where they really did good with it. Like, I think the queue on this is really solid.
I'll have to wait in line and check it out.
I mean, if you could catch it for a short wait, do it. But after that, we have another awesome queue. Enchanted Tales with Belle. I know Brian has expressed his love for the animatronics in this before.
Yes, this is it's cool that Disney put so much work into these animatronics, and it's cool. I love Enchanted Tales with Belle, but I mean, it's not an e-ticket attraction. I don't think anyone would say it is. But it's very cool, and yeah, the animatronics are just top notch in this thing.
Oh, 100%. I am still convinced that they're real.
I'm normally the kind of person who likes seeing the, like, behind the scenes and, like, knowing how stuff works at Disney. But in this attraction, the mirror that you walk through, it's like, I don't want to know. That's just too awesome.
Yeah. It's really cool. I still have no idea how they do the effect.
I kind of want to know, and I've said that I hate knowing things because it would ruin the magic for me. But, like, it's just so cool that I really feel like they knocked it out of the park with just the animatronics in this ride. So it's really awesome. I'm 100% convinced that they're real.
Was anybody there whenever it first opened and they were having so many problems with the wardrobe?
No.
I don't really remember, like, the specifics or, like, the gossip about it, but her mouth opening was, like, so messed up. I remember, I guess I was just there on a trip one time, and we kept trying to ride it, to go through, because we had my friend that I was with had a friend who was friends with Belle. That's a lot of friends. Anyway, and so we wanted to say hi to her friend, and it kept shutting down, and the animatronic kept, like, they could not get her face right, and so the corners of her mouth kept ripping open, like, multiple times a day. I feel like I was hearing.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
and so it took forever, and I remember whenever we went in there, finally, like, one side was ripped open. It was very strange. I mean, clearly they finally fixed it, but that was, like, a big problem at first. And I'm glad they put effort into most of these animatronics to actually get them working right, instead of just leaving them for years to waste away, a la a certain Yeti. But
Yeah. Anytime I've ever been on it, they've been fantastic.
Same here.
I'm determined to find a video or a picture or something of this because it sounds terrifying.
I mean, it wasn't
Yeah,
that
I really wanna
bad.
see.
I don't remember it being like, oh my god, that's freaky. I have to, maybe I have a picture or something. I'll have to see if I can find anything.
I mean, the mouth and like eyes and all like the facial structure on the wardrobe is so like intricate that I can only imagine how awful that would be for it to like rip or to have some kind of malfunction.
Yeah.
So, I think this is a cute show. I think they do it really well. It's definitely a good thing if you have kids to check out and kind of enjoy it. It's a nice like time out of the hot Florida sun too, so that's another good thing. I don't know. I'm all for stuff like this too when they utilize Disney technology to do something different. Anyone else on Enchanted Tales?
One thing I really love that I'll mention is just one of those classic Disney attention to details. If you look when you're walking through the queue at like the fence posts and the light posts at what the things are made of, it's just so unique because it's like you're really walking into Maurice's house and he's made all of these, he's like cobbled together all of these things, you know, outside of his house out of common items like broken, you know, wheels and all kinds of crazy stuff that, you know, it's not just like you're walking through a regular line somewhere. I mean, little things like that you may not even consciously notice but just have such an impact on your subconscious. I just love it.
I think the queue on this one has so much detail in it. I would argue that this is probably one of my favorite queues in Magic Kingdom, just for the detail alone.
Yeah, it's a really good one. I agree.
Okay, so after that we have Be Our Guest, which I think is one of my favorite sit-downs. I don't know about you guys, but I always have a good time at this restaurant.
I think the theming alone is reason enough to go eat there. Even if the food was awful, I would still probably go.
Does anyone else remember when it was literally impossible to get into here? Like, not the impossible that it is now, like it was actually very hard to get in here.
Yes, I actually went in November of 2012. And I think it was just soft open then. I don't remember what their exact opening date was, but we wanted to go so bad. I mean, clearly it's my favorite movie. And I was with my Disney roommates. And so we went, I think we're in Magic Kingdom all day, and we just kept going up and saying like, do you have, you know, a walk-in? And they were sometimes letting people in. Finally, we gave up. We went and ate at Pecos Bill's, and then like just still kept coming back. And finally, they let us in, and we just sat down and had dessert. And it was like, I cried whenever we went in because I was so excited. And I actually skipped wishes to go in and sit down there. So that's how much I wanted to go in and how excited we were that we finally got in.
Wait, you said you skipped wishes? I am shocked.
I did. I skipped wishes to go try the gray stuff, which, by the way, I guess another unpopular opinion, I hate.
Oh no.
What?
It's good. I don't think it's exceptional. I don't know. It's cookies and cream.
I
I really
think
like
it's delicious.
But my first experience here was actually for lunch. It was when they first opened it. I remember specifically because my aunt had tried to get a reservation for it, not realizing that it was like one of those get up when they first open and phone it in kind of things. But she had ended up not getting one for dinner, obviously. And everyone was like, well, if we couldn't get a reservation, it's not worth the like hour-long wait or whatever it was to get in for lunch. And they all kind of like abandoned me. But I was like, no, I'm determined. So I stood in line for like an hour just to get in for lunch. And I think it was totally worth it. At the time, it was before they were doing magic bands and stuff like that too. So they brought, like, you ordered your food on a little touchscreen kiosk, and then you sat at a table, and they gave you like a little rose puck thing, and they would bring it out in a cart to like wherever the puck was and bring your food out to the table. It was really cool, especially because that was when they were trying out that technology too. So overall, I
Don't
would.
they still?
I have no idea, honestly. I haven't done lunch there since then. But
I think when I went back in October, I had a magic band, but I saw other people that had the rose. So I guess they still use it for people that aren't using magic bands.
it's so hard to believe that people don't use magic bands.
I know, right?
I know.
Yeah, because we used our magic bands, but I don't understand what is actually magical to me is how the heck do they find where you're sitting?
I still don't get that. You would think there'd be so many of them scattered around that they wouldn't be able to pinpoint where exactly they're supposed to be taking the food.
Well,
Yeah.
that was the whole thing with magic bands originally, is that Disney can track where you are in the park with them. And everyone was kind of like super worried, like, oh, Disney knows where I'm at all times, this and that. And
But I can't believe it's like that accurate, like that between us and the table next to us, like they knew to come to me. You know, that's
Yeah.
just bizarre.
Right.
I don't know, I guess that's the level of technology we have. But it's still super cool. Like, I really enjoy that restaurant for everything. Have you guys sat in like every room? Do you have a preference to where you sit?
I've only been here once for lunch, so I've only sat in like the, I guess whatever they call the grand hall area, like the main big one.
Ballroom.
The ballroom.
Yeah, the ballroom.
I've sat in there and in the West Wing, not in the Rose Room, I think is what they called the last room, which, I mean, that's like a cop-out anyway, because that's not
Oh,
even
it
a real
really
room.
is.
So who wants to sit there? The West Wing, I think I mentioned this in like my little review thing, but it's so dark in there, you can't see your food. I mean, it's really cool, but I literally had my flashlight on my phone on to like figure out what I was eating. So that part is not so cool. Next time I will try to keep myself in the ballroom.
I've only been twice, and both of them were lunch, and I sat in the ballroom just because that's my favorite one. But I always am that annoying person that gets up and walks around and looks at stuff. So
Yeah, I totally think that's really weird that they let you do that. Does anybody else feel like you shouldn't be able to just walk around a restaurant and look at everything?
I mean, I try to be conscious of it. I'm not like standing beside people's tables where they're eating. I just go to look at the stuff that is like off to the side kind of thing. But
Oh, I wasn't. I feel really bad about this, but like the trip that I went there for lunch, it was super crowded, and like there were just tons of people in there for lunch and everything. But the lady was like, yeah, you can walk around and take pictures of everything, and you best believe that I was everywhere I could be trying to take pictures of stuff. Even if there was like a table there, I was like, can you just move a little to the left so I can get a picture of that?
Yeah, that's another thing about the West Wing is we got a table right by the Rose because duh. And everybody came over to take pictures like the entire time, which I understand, like clearly I would want to do it too. But it wasn't like, oh my God, go away people. It was just distracting, you know, like if I were there on some sort of romantic dinner or whatever, that would not be my choice.
So, I know you said you don't like the Rose Room, but I think that's actually the biggest perk to this room, because I've eaten everywhere besides the West Wing. But the Rose Room is actually really quiet. It's not like very well themed at all. I don't think, like you said, it's kind of a cop-out. But it's nice that you don't really have people walking around and like kind of in your face about everything. Because even in the ballroom's huge, and there's so much stuff like around in the ballroom that you can go look at, from the windows to like the just like the pillars and everything. Like there's just so many different things that you can look at in there. At least with the Rose Room, the only really big detail is that giant music box, which is kind of cool, but it's not enough that I think I would make a trip into that room just for it.
Yeah, and then another fun fact, in the ballroom on the ceiling they have all the little cherub paintings, and so all the faces of those little cherubs are actually faces of the children of Imagineers that were born while they were working on New Fantasyland.
I really thought you were going to tell me
Aw.
that they were actually the Imagineers. I was going to say, oh no.
So Imagineer babies that were born during the creation of New Fantasyland.
That's really cool.
yeah, that's awesome. Do you guys ever notice at the end of the movies that they do that?
Yeah, they name all like the kids from the production.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh wait, yes, I did. I did notice that. I, for some reason, was thinking just Beauty and the Beast. But do you guys have like a preference for food here? Because I know there's like one thing on this menu that I always like think about when I think of Be Our Guest.
Well, since I don't like the gray stuff, my favorite thing is definitely the dessert. It's like the triple chocolate cupcake or whatever. Maybe it's called the Master's Cupcake. I don't know, but it is on point. It is so good if you like a lot of chocolate. If you don't eat this.
I hate to break it to you, but the Master's Cupcake totally has gray stuff on top.
Okay, then it's not that one. Whatever is the most chocolate, whatever is the most chocolate you can get, it's that one. That's the one I like.
Okay.
There's a there's a strawberry like dessert thing that's really good here. Can't remember what it's called, but the first time that we went, my girlfriend and I, she loves Beauty and the Beast, so I made it a point to like come here for this. We were looking at the desserts, and she was like, "Oh, it's a strawberry cream cheese cupcake. That's what it is." She was like, "That looks really good, but I also really want to try the gray stuff." I was like, "Well, I'll get that. You can get the gray stuff, and we'll split it." Well, the gray stuff came out. She tried it, and she's like, "Okay, this is mine. You can keep that." And I ate it. I enjoyed it. I really actually liked it a lot better than I thought it would. But that was really good. But food-wise, there is I really like seafood. So there's the sautéed shrimp and scallops. And it's got like lobster sauce and a bunch of other things on it, and it's like it was baked into like this puff pastry style thing. It was so good, and I think about that all the time, and it just makes me want to go back to this restaurant.
Yeah, the only thing that I've had food-wise is the quiche, because it's the only thing that doesn't have meat.
So after that, we have Gaston's Tavern and that little like area that's over there that's got the Gaston fountain and everything. This is another great themed area, I guess is the best way to say that.
It really, it fits well with Be Our Guest close to it, but it also, kind of, it's obviously a different scene than the castle, but, it really does feel like you're going to, a tavern out of Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, it really does.
And this has, I think, probably my favorite non-alcoholic drink at Disney, which is the Foos Brew.
So, I've got a question for you. I know that,
Yes.
Now that I know that you guys like this, do you go non-souvenir cup, or are you like me and you have 30 of the Gaston's mugs because you're actually awful and collect things like that?
I always go non-souvenir mugs if I have the opportunity.
Yeah, I don't have any but I try not to keep a bunch of stuff, so I don't have anything like this. Like, we went to Trader Sam's and we were there, and my husband was like, "Ooh, we should get a Nautilus," and I'm like, "I'm not keeping that in my house, no." Like, sorry.
Yeah, I always go non-souvenir mug now because I have too many souvenir cups. But I used to get them all the time.
I have like 3 of them, and I'm not really ashamed to admit that. But they're all the same one.
You
like
have a whole collection?
I have a whole collection of just the Gaston specific ones. But I don't know why. Like, I always forget that I have it, and then I get another one. I'm like, why did I do this?
If you get a couple more, you'll be able to like set up for fancy things at your place.
Right.
Well, so the
Thanksgiving in his house.
So the one time that I actually had one ruined, it was nice because I had a replacement. I had a couple friends over one time, and we ran out of like clean glasses, And my one friend was like, oh, I'll just use this. And he grabbed a plastic mug, and we were all sitting around like a bonfire in the backyard. And he didn't realize that it was plastic, and he stuck it like really close to the fire, and it warped inward.
Ooh.
So luckily I had like 3 more to replace it. But yeah, I'm really bad at that. The other thing that's really nice about Gaston's Tavern is the snacks and stuff here. That cinnamon roll is really good. I know someone put this in the notes, but I'm totally going to steal that. I am a sucker for cinnamon rolls.
These ones are absolutely massive,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So, somewhat controversial topic. How do y'all feel about the fact that they sell alcohol? And that started with, I think, Gaston's Tavern, right? Or was it Be Our Guest? Either way, they serve alcohol there now. How do y'all feel about Magic Kingdom serving alcohol?
I don't think it matters one way or another to me. I think it was kind of inevitable that at least one of the sit-down restaurants would get like a beer or wine or something like that. But I don't really care one way or another. As long as like people don't take it too far and you don't get yourself in trouble, I think it's fine.
Right. And like I understand, Walt originally didn't want any alcohol, but it's not like at Epcot or something where there are, stands that you can just go up to and grab a beer and then walk 100 yards, grab another beer. For you to go and sit down, I don't think anybody's going to Be Our Guest or any of the like sit down restaurants in the parks and just like throwing back drinks, So
Right.
I'm okay with them offering it, at a sit down meal, because I think that still is avoiding what Walt was trying to avoid, which was just having open alcohol vendors throughout the parks for people to just hop to and from and
Right.
get drinks.
See, and weirdly enough, that's kind of where I think I would draw the line too. Like, if it became like it is with Epcot in every park, I don't think I would really, not like approve of that, but that's not what I want.
Right. Like, I've never had it to a point where, I had a bad experience with it or anything, but, almost every time I go to Epcot, if I stay late afternoon, I see a couple people that have probably had too much to drink, and it's, it's okay at Epcot, because I feel like, not to get, like completely wasted or anything while you're there, but, you want to go and you want to enjoy the different cultures, and part of that is they have different alcoholic offerings at each country, and it's cool, but, at Magic Kingdom, I feel like so much of it is them setting up you being transported to this other world with the theming and everything, and if there was, just alcohol all over the place, and, see a couple people drunk throughout the day, I think that would kind of mess up the theming and the whole, environment that they've set up there.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that's exactly where I stand on it.
Yeah, I would agree as well.
I don't know. I'm just not a fan. And I know that partially, like, I don't drink that much. Obviously, I don't have a problem with drinking, like, whatever. I don't care at all. And so I don't know what part of it is just like me, because I feel like a lot of times too, and I've definitely been guilty of this, of saying, well, I don't think that's what Walt would have wanted, and like speaking for him, whereas like we don't know what he would want, we don't know what he would like or not like, but I don't know, that was one thing that I've really enjoyed about it, was that it was like special, and so people do, and you're right, I've never seen anybody who was like over the top, so that's good. But whenever we're there, I'm like, Will, please just like don't drink alcohol in Magic Kingdom, because it's a tradition, okay? And he's like, whatever. But I don't know. It's fine. I hope it doesn't become like where you can get it everywhere though, like at Epcot.
And I highly doubt it ever will.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, is it, with the restaurant theming, I think it fits fine. With Gaston's Tavern, it fits fine. But if it got to the point where they were selling like beer at a cart in Storybook Circus, I would say that's where I'd draw the line, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And do y'all know, do they sell alcohol now at the new Skipper Canteen? Do y'all know that? Because I was trying to remember.
They
and I don't
might.
know.
I can look it up.
Beer and wine, I think.
But yeah, I think that's probably about as far as it goes. And, like, whatever. I don't really think that it needed it there. If they did, like, this is going to be kind of probably controversial, but if they did kind of similar style drinks like Trader Sam's but didn't do as many of them, maybe that would fit better. But as long as it fits where it is, I don't really care one way or another.
Yeah, I think that beer and wine fits at Be Our Guest, but I feel like specialty drinks would be nice at places like Skipper Canteen.
Yeah.
Just because they have like specialty non-alcoholic beverages, it'd be nice to just, have the option. But again, like Brian was saying, people aren't going to sit down restaurants to throw drinks back.
Mm-hmm.
So do we have any final thoughts on Gaston's Tavern or the little area around it?
I do love it, especially at night, because it's just so much like the movie. It's like you're really right there where she sat on the bench and read the book to the sheep. And
so kind of off that, I think this is a really good representation of Disney using sightlines and hiding things they don't want you to see, because there isn't an inch of this little area of Gaston's Tavern that doesn't feel like it belongs or isn't directly in the sightlines, that feels like it's all right out of Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
And that area does really shine at night. I think the lights on Beast Castle were incredibly well done, and that fountain just looks great at night. So after that, we have Under the Sea, Journey of the Little Mermaid, which is, I think this is an incredible attraction. What about you guys?
I like it. I feel like now the Ursula animatronic has really been overshadowed by the what's her name? Shaman of Songs.
Yeah.
So it makes me less excited to go on it, just because I enjoy like seeing what's the newest and best in audio animatronics. But I like it. The one thing that bothers me a whole lot, oddly enough, is the animatronic of Ariel when they're in the Under the Sea part.
God,
and
no,
her
I know
hair,
exactly what you're talking
her
about.
hair is so bad. It's just so weird. I don't understand. Like, how can her hair be so perfect in a movie and so terrible in real life?
She actually looks like she's being held against her will in that scene. I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but every time we ride by it, it looks like she's like, help me, I'm stuck here.
Yes.
Well, this is, like, in my overall opinion on Under the Sea is I think it's a really good attraction. It's a cool dark ride that really has some good throwback touches to, like, the classic Disney-style dark rides. But as someone that loves animatronics, it's like, I don't know, some of the animatronics in this ride are absolutely incredible, and then some of them are just not. I mean, there's not a good way to put it. You can tell that not a lot of work was put into some of them. And and that contrast is what really kind of throws the immersion out. So, like, if you look at the Ursula animatronic is incredible, and the Scuttle animatronics that are scattered throughout the ride are incredible, I think. And then when you get to the scene where they're singing Under the Sea, it's like, yeah, there's a ton of animatronics in there, but for the most part, they're all very, very cheap-looking animatronics.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the weakest point in this attraction is that one scene.
This is the one thing about animatronics that like really, really annoys me. That it's not. I don't need them to be doing something like incredible or have like really, in-depth facial movements and look super realistic. It annoys me so bad when there's like somebody playing an instrument or something and their hands or whatever they're doing is not actually coming into contact anywhere close to the instrument. There's one where it's like he's supposed to be playing a xylophone or something, and I mean like
it's like an
the
inch
mallets on
above.
the xylophone are like 6 inches from contacting it. It's like, come on. Now I know you could have just moved his arms closer.
So,
but
I don't know if you guys have wrote it before the one update where they added the show lighting to it, but I think that killed a lot of it. There was originally that scene, the Under the Sea part, was actually really dark. and a lot of it was like neon-y lit, like black lighting, and some like occasional spotlights, and I think that hid a lot of the faults of this room. But when they started adding like the more vibrant lighting where you could see a lot of things, that was what really killed it for me. And I think...
Yeah, I never wrote it like that, but that sounds like it would fix a lot of the problems.
Yeah, and I think that's like one of those things that it goes to show that the lighting is also really important in these attractions. So no flash photography, please. But so speaking to that, there was a cool fact that I found that 70% of the animatronics are actually in that scene, which is crazy.
Wow.
That's just a massive scene.
Yeah.
So Brian, talk about this thing you have in our show notes, because I wasn't sure if this was real or not, and I was really interested in this. And I'm really happy you put it in here.
I know we've talked about the other one on the show before, the other really cool Hidden Mickey Steamboat Willie rock formation one that's in here. But this is another one that I found out about recently, that there's another Hidden Mickey that only appears, well, I should say it only appears correctly on Mickey's birthday on November 18th. So there is, in one of the rock formations, kind of above you as you're walking through the queue, at one point, basically on November 18th, they've worked this out, I'm assuming through physics and astronomy and everything, that only on November 18th does the light come through these rock formations at the right angle and projects basically a classic tri-circle Mickey head onto the pavement, or I think it's actually onto the wall of one of the side of the queues. So that's pretty cool. I think I can't imagine the amount of work that went into this for just that small of a thing to have, but just goes to show again the attention to detail that Disney puts into this kind of stuff. Very cool.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Yeah, I'd never heard that.
I gotta go on November 18th now.
I saw that, and I read it in like 4 different sites, and I was like, this can't be real. I'm gonna put this in here, and someone's gonna tell me it's wrong, and then Brian put it in, and I was like, okay. Someone else put this in here, we can talk about it now.
But yeah, it's it just blows my mind that somebody or some group of people there put that much work into it for something that, even if you were there on November 18th and strolling through the queue, you probably wouldn't even see it. You'd have to go there knowing what day to go on and knowing to look for it to see it.
I feel like there are people who are super
really
dedicated to Hidden Mickeys, which I love Hidden Mickeys. I think they're super fun. I can't wait till Eli is older and he's at that age where he's really into them, because they're one of my favorite things. So I feel like there've got to be some Imagineers who this is like what brings them joy more than anything else about their job, is like putting in these Hidden Mickeys everywhere, which makes me smile, because that just shows what kind of nerds are working for Disney. They're just like us.
I would love for that to be my job, to like just design Hidden Mickeys, but I know I'm not creative enough. So after that, you could meet Ariel in her grotto. This is an interesting themed area. I think we did it once, mostly because my little cousin wanted to do it. And I'm all for characters having their own meet and greet area if it doesn't take up a ton of room. And with how the building of the attraction's designed, it's nice that it kind of like works its way in there. But it's a cool little spot to meet Ariel at.
Yeah, I've never done it.
This is one of the few meet and greets that I've actually done, and it was really cool. I liked it. Yeah, I know. So it wasn't exactly my idea to do it, but I did it, and it was cool. No, I know I've said before that I don't really like meet and greets that much, but it was cool. The Ariel that we had was extremely interactive and everything, and made a lot of puns about under the sea type stuff, which I can respect. So I liked it. It was good. I definitely prefer face characters to the furry style ones when I do the meet and greet. So it was cool to have that interaction with her.
Yeah.
I've never done this, but I have a couple of questions. This is the one that you can see as you're like walking by, right? So how does Ariel get to and from the shell that she sits
I
on?
think they close off the room
Yeah.
when she's not
Okay.
there, because it's inside. Like, you can see the way in, but you have to walk through like some cavern.
Yeah, and you have
stuff.
to wait outside. Kind of like how Town Square Theater, how you wait outside the room and then they let a group in
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. It's kind of like that, from what
So
I
you
remember.
You can't see this if you're just like walking by the area.
No,
like, not
you
trying
can't
to ride
see.
it.
Like if you were looking in there, you couldn't see her shell, not unless you walked really far back, like through the exit.
Okay. That makes sense. I'm surprised that she still shows so much skin with the whole Jasmine controversy.
I'm glad. Like I think the Jasmine costume is terrible now. It makes me so angry. I can't stand it. So
Yeah.
good for you, Ariel. Keep doing you.
Right. I feel like this is one that like actually they can't really do anything about, because even with the Jasmine one, they could cover it up and say, oh well, she's outside. We tried to make the costume a little bit better for when it gets colder out. Like, Ariel's inside. You can't pull that with this. But I'm happy with this. I like the theming of the meet and greet area. I like how dedicated Ariel usually is. She's usually really good in this location. I've had some interesting character meet and greet experiences. I'll tell you about those on another episode. But yeah, I like this one. I really think that this was a good example. This and Merida, I think, are the best examples of what they should do for character.
Yeah, plus it's just awesome that she's like in mermaid form. It's not like the blue dress one walking around.
Right. After that, we have Big Top Souvenirs, which is the start of Storybook Circus. Anybody thoughts or feelings on this one?
Well, on Storybook Circus in general, I'm not sure how y'all feel. I do not like Storybook Circus at all. I think it is probably the weakest themed area in all of Disney World. I'm gonna go out and say that. And I feel like it's been an issue since it's opened. Not as Storybook Circus, but for all the other themed lands that it was before. I kind of feel like Disney's never really figured out what they want to do with this area. I mean, it's been like 5 different themed areas and it's only been open since '88. So it's it seems like they keep grasping at straws as a way to cohesively join all of these attractions and areas into one, themed, atmosphere, and I feel like they keep missing the mark on this every time they do it.
I actually kind of agree with that. I think it's nice. It may also be because I don't have kids to appreciate it that I don't really enjoy this land as much as I think, or this section of the land as much as I probably could. I also think that they needed something for Barnstormer and Dumbo, so, what else could they really do? Dumbo being a Magic Kingdom staple, I feel like if that got pulled from the Magic Kingdom, there would be a riot.
As their
Oh, definitely.
But it's not awful. Like, I don't think it's awful by any means. I think it's got some cool themed parts. I like the Casey Jr. splash station when there's no little kids around. Just because, like, that area is really well themed, but I mean, me being me, I don't have kids, so I don't really appreciate it, as much as someone that would. But I like it. It's cool. It looks nice, but it is pretty weak in terms of.
Do you think this is worse than the parking lot in Animal Kingdom?
I
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
I've said it on here before. I like Chester's and Hester's.
Wait, hold on. I had to think about that for a second because I legitimately
did
thought
too.
there was the parking lot.
I just don't remember the name.
Parking lot.
I had a moment and I was like, wow, Brian just
And I was like,
shot
that's
down a
pretty
section
harsh.
of Animal Kingdom. Oh wait, that's what she actually meant.
And here's what I'll say about this before I go into too long of a rant. I know a lot of people don't like Chester's and Hester's Dinorama, and I completely understand that. I do. I think there's a cool backstory to it, and that alone makes it worth having it there, that it is something different and it has a unique backstory. But at least with Chester's and Hester's, the Imagineers went in, they did something different. People, responded very divisively to it, but they stuck with their guns. With what opened as Mickey's Birthday Land, and then became Mickey's Star Land, and then became Mickey's Toy Land, and then became Toontown Fair, and then became what we have now in Storybook Circus. Every time this land gets rethemed and the public distaste for it comes out, it's like Disney tries to do something else and say, oh no, we're gonna try to do this again. And it's kind of like, I think that alone makes me dislike it so much, that they won't just stick with something and push through and try to make that better. They just keep jumping around to try to fit a theme in here.
But question on that, do you think it's in that sense okay for Disney to have a bad, poorly themed land if they stick to their guns with it? Does that make it
and I mean,
justifiable?
I wouldn't say that, but it's like, man, this is the 5th time around. How many times is it going to have to be rethemed before it's something that sticks, really? And, and like I said, I'm coming from a biased opinion because I do genuinely like Chester's and Hester's Dinorama, so I know it's not really fair for me to just say, oh no, they should just stick with it if it wasn't good, but, I don't know. It's weird to me that you have this iconic ride in Dumbo in this area, but everything else is getting changed out around it. It seems like Dumbo should have been fit somewhere that was going to have a theme that stuck, as iconic as it is.
See, I think that's why they did Storybook Circus this way, is because they needed a place for Dumbo to be that had a cohesive theming with it, and tying Dumbo to a circus was just an easy fit.
I'll say that I think this is probably the best that they've done theming this area, but I still do not like it.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's just an opinion,
Yeah. See, and I would agree with you on that. I think this is the best that this section of Fantasyland, or whatever you want to call it, has seen in terms of things that have been in its place. But I do have to admit, I think I prefer the back section of Storybook Circus over the front half, where the character meet and greets are and stuff like that. I feel like the next thing, the Pete's Silly Sideshow, where you meet Donald, Daisy, Goofy, and Minnie, is kind of a really cheap cop-out and use for land. That takes up a lot of space, and it's nice that you can meet Donald, Daisy, Goofy, and Minnie there, but did we need it? Probably not.
I would agree that it's one of the weaker parts of Disney World in general, like Brian was saying. Pretty much the only time that I actually make the effort is for Dumbo, or if I'm just passing through kind of thing. I don't think the idea behind it is terrible. I just don't think it was executed very well. But this is really the only iteration of this land that I've known, because I haven't been going to Disney regularly for, I guess it's been a little while now, but this was kind of what I first saw as far as this section, and just looking at older iterations of it, I thought like the idea of Mickey's Toontown Fair is, I thought it was kind of cute, like all the houses and stuff, and the fact that it wasn't like, I don't know, attraction. It was just like a cool little walkthrough. I think that they don't do enough of that anymore.
I think the problem with that is that it didn't draw as much of a crowd. So it's like, do you really keep something? For example, Rafiki's Planet Watch. Like, I love that area. I think that's a great area in Animal Kingdom. But does it get any attention? Not really, because it's really hard to get to. And unfortunately, when things like that happen, Disney's got to change it because they need something to
I mean,
keep
that is a
people.
fair point.
But that said, I also think my perspective on this will change as I have kids because I have no reason to be here now. Like, Kirsten, when you took Eli, did you spend any time here with him outside of Dumbo?
I mean, not really, but I definitely don't think that taking, an 8-month-old is like the norm. So it's kind of hard to imagine. And I don't really know any young kids to know what to expect in the future. But I feel like once they hit, 2 and 3 is when you really start to get the value out of this kind of area, because it's like I don't know, it's not it's not really out of the way as much, but it's not as crowded as, like the main Fantasyland drag, or, and so when they're antsy, like they can run around by themselves on that splash pad and get wet and gross, and, like they can appreciate, the peanuts in the ground when you're walking up to the Dumbo ride, and like you can take them in the playground at the Dumbo, queue area, even if there's no line, just to let them burn off steam. So I feel like at some point we will appreciate it more, but this time I think he was just too little. But I did walk around and think like, oh, I can't wait till he's old enough to do this. Oh, I can't wait till he's old enough to do that. But I felt that way about pretty much every single thing.
Yeah. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in some sections of this land exclusively on the fact that, like, that little splash and soak area is really photogenic at night, especially when there's no one there, just because, like, the puddles on the ground and everything. But I won't go too much into that. But I don't think it's as much of a miss as we're saying it is.
Yeah, I think it's just, I don't know, pales in comparison. It's not bad in itself, but it's
Right.
hard to hold up to other strongly themed areas.
Yeah, fair enough. So real quick, we can run through some of these things, even though we've kind of talked about it a little bit. So there's we'll skip over Pete's Silly Sideshow because I already kind of said everything about that. There's a railroad stop here. Has anybody gotten off or on at this
I think I've gotten
station?
off here once.
I think I got on here once, but
I don't-
again, train station.
Right. Oh, that's my, like, shameful Disney secret. I've never ridden the train. Oops. Yeah. We have Casey Jr.'s Splash and Soak Station, which, if anybody doesn't know, it's kind of like a little water play area. Circus-themed water fountain shoot out of, like, a bunch of different places. It's just a place for little kids to kind of go and have some fun. Yeah, get gross. And then you have Barnstormer, which I think is probably one of the shining points of this little area. Does anybody really care about Barnstormer?
I rode it
It's a nice
once.
retraction.
I know
but
when we were talking about Snow White and saying that, you wait a long time for a very short ride, I think Barnstormer is that, like, to the nth degree. There's been times, and I feel bad because, like, I knew it going in, and, if there is anything more than, like, a 10-minute wait for this, there's no way I'm going to get on it because the ride, I actually have the stats pulled up right here. The ride lasts 53 seconds. 32 seconds of that is leaving the station and actually, getting pulled up the hill. So there's 21 seconds of legitimate, like, roller coaster ride time in this thing. And I've seen so many people get on there with like a 45-minute wait. I went through I picked up a fast pass for this the last time I got on it, and I felt bad because the line was like 45 minutes, and this every person that got off of this said the same thing. Oh my god, I can't believe I waited that long for that short of a ride. So
What's the height requirement on this? Does it have that?
I'm sure it does somewhere here. 35 inches.
Okay, so I think that this is a really nice attraction if you have a child that can't ride like Seven Dwarfs or any of the more high-intensity ones. Mm-hmm. I feel like this is a good answer to that, but for someone our age, you're not going to get the enjoyment out of it, I don't think.
Yeah, this is probably the mildest coaster that Disney has, so it's definitely like a good, first roller coaster for a kid to get on. Right,
and I'm sure that there's kids that it's like, you can kind of coax them into it. Well, oh, that wasn't so bad. Why don't we try the next step up? Or why don't we try the next step up? Like, I feel like that's what this is for, and I think it does that pretty well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But after that, we've got Dumbo, which I know Kirsten has some thoughts on. So why don't we turn that over to her?
I mean, I love Dumbo, and I'm really an anomaly because I hate meeting characters. I don't like parades. I hate Dole Whip. I don't know. I hate a lot of things, but I don't like kids really, except my own. And so I'm a big thrill ride person. If I had my choice, I would go to Cedar Point and like that. I'm all about that. I've only recently, in the past 5 years or so, really started to appreciate the dark rides for what they are. And so Dumbo, I was always like, whatever. But it was my mother-in-law's, one of her favorites. So now we ride it every single time. Dumbo, Teacup Small World, whenever we start our day in the Magic Kingdom, because that's what she liked to do. And I love it so much now. And I loved taking Eli on it. I love that they have the double Dumbo now. I feel like there was some controversy about that at first, but I think it's fabulous. I think the queue is fabulous. I love Timothy Q. Mouse. I don't know. Dumbo is like one of my favorites. It's the best. Yeah, that's about all I got.
I really like Dumbo. I know we've kind of said, like, out of the spin rides, I think Dumbo is probably my favorite. But I really like it just because it's got that historical Disney tie. If anybody doesn't know, Dumbo is in every Disney park that's ever opened. It's been some iteration in there. So that's a really cool fact. But I really have to say I liked the update that they gave this. I liked that they gave it a second track. And I like the idea of the play area that's there too. I think they did this update really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the restaurant buzzer thing.
Yeah, if anybody doesn't know, and you're listening to this before you go ride Dumbo, what they recently did when they did the new Fantasyland update was they added the second track, but they also added a play area inside. So now when you go in, instead of waiting in like a standard line, you get like a restaurant style buzzer, and your kid can go play through like playground type area. And when it's your turn to ride, the buzzer buzzes and you go up, and I think you still stand in a very short line, don't you?
I don't know. I've actually never been able to ride it with a buzzer. Like, the line's never been long enough.
I've done it with the buzzer before. They'll call you back, and then you'll probably have like a 5-minute wait after that, because I don't think it's like an individual thing. I think they call like groups of buzzers at once. So,
yeah.
So there will still be a very short wait, but I mean, overall, the system's a really good idea.
I love the system, but I think this was probably not the best ride to use it for.
I think it was a good one to test it out on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of because it wouldn't be the most, obviously you're not gaining huge amounts of efficiency by doing this on Dumbo, but what I'm hoping is that they take this because it was easy to implement on Dumbo and using it where it will actually create efficiency. which I mean I feel like is a lot of rides at Disney.
Right.
Yeah, I'd love to see this implemented elsewhere.
Which, now, I know I always ask you guys a question at the end of our little walkthrough, but this week I think I'm going to ask you, if you could implement a ride with a queue similar to Dumbo to any attraction, it has to make sense though, where would you put it?
Right now, Flight of Passage.
But see, like, I don't think that really makes sense for it. Like, what I'm thinking is, I think Peter Pan would benefit for something like this.
Like the playground area?
Yeah, like a playground area or something to do where you have, like, a walkthrough kind of style thing. But it's more like, even, I don't know if anybody's really seen what they did with Jimmy Fallon at Universal. Like that kind of wait queue, where you go into like a museum style thing and they call you by color groups. Like you're assigned a color group when you walk in, and then like a thing flashes on the TV and your color group goes through the next room. Something similar to that.
Okay, I feel like Peter Pan definitely makes the most sense, but I hate Peter Pan. So I'm going to say one that would be super fun and they could be really creative with would be Jungle Cruise. They could make like an awesome playground walkthrough craziness there.
That would be really cool.
So this, y'all probably won't agree with this, but I think that if they implemented something like this on the Swiss Family Treehouse, it would actually make the attraction a lot better. So what I would like to see them... I know. Hear me out for a minute.
You're right, I don't agree with this already.
Okay, my biggest complaint with the Swiss Family Treehouse is that if there is a line, which isn't, very often, but I've been on times where it's literally just like a standstill from the beginning of the queue, like to when you get off, and people are just moving like one person at a time through it. What I think would be really cool is if they had some type of smaller waiting area, maybe where, I don't know, something interactive. It shouldn't be that hard to come up with Swiss Family Robinson interactive stuff. But that they would call back, like, I don't know, maybe 30 people at a time. So that all, that people can move and kind of go through the attraction without it being this bottleneck, of one person slowing the line down. And then just keep doing that and sending people through so that it's not, at a standstill.
I actually totally agree with that. I would love if Swiss Family would become more interactive somehow, and I think this would be a good way to accomplish that.
And I guess on these same lines, I think it would be cool too if they somehow redid it where, pretty much everything was the same, but it wasn't like one path to get through Swiss Family Robinson in order, that you could kind of go to the different rooms and
just explore their house.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think opening it up in that style would potentially allow for it to be easier to do something where you could explore it in a different way. And in that case, I would totally agree with you on that. If there was any way for them to make it so that you could kind of do it at your own pace and explore it, they would have to cut crowds, and doing some kind of holding area like that's perfect.
Yeah.
What about you, Beth? Do you have an option?
Well, I think that is a really good idea. The only reason I'm gonna stick with Flight of Passage is because I would like, if I were having to wait in that line, I would at least like somewhere to sit down, which is what I like about the Dumbo waiting area. So, I mean, I think that they, like, it may not fit in well to do like a playground necessarily, but I think they could probably whip something up with like kind of science experiment type of interactive elements and just have a bunch of places for the adults to sit down, and I think it would, I don't know, quiet a lot of the hate that the waits are getting.
So
I like the science experiment idea. I could get on board with that.
yeah, I could totally back something like that. If they did something similar to maybe like that one section of like Rafiki's Planet Watch where you can see like the animal hospital and stuff like that, where it's like kind of learning, that would be cool. I would totally think that would make the wait time not feel as long. I'm going to stick with mine and say Peter Pan's probably the one that I think could benefit from it most. I know they updated the queue very recently, and I love the queue and everything, but that 90 minutes still drags if you're waiting that long in it.
Well, they could really probably just like take the rails out of that main room that you go in Peter Pan's and just let people interact with all the stuff that's in there now.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, all the elements are there.
Right. All they would have to do is cut the switchbacks and do some kind of buzzer system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, now that we've rambled a little bit on that, does anybody have anything they want to say before we tie this week up with our iTunes review?
I'm good.
Anybody else? Anything? Okay, so we had one iTunes review this week, which was from Chrissy4585. She left us a 4-star review, said that we're good from a kids-free point of view. She really enjoyed our Fast Pass episode. I'll read it word for word, so I'm not paraphrasing anything. She said the Fast Pass Plus episode was helpful, but it's definitely for the non-kid trip. I kept thinking, yeah, but if you don't have young kids, I wish they would have addressed this in the beginning of the episode, who they usually travel with. Planning a solo or a 2-person trip differs greatly from a family of 4 trip, which is a very valid point. Mm-hmm. I think we all kind of take for granted that we travel in different style groups, so always take our advice with kind of like a grain of salt. What works for us may not work for you.
For sure.
And like we all kind of travel with different people, so it's always a little hard to kind of like do an overall consensus for everything. But I really appreciate the review. We always are looking for ways to improve the show, so always leave us kind of anything you think we can improve on or things you think we're doing great. We really appreciate that.
Well, and also, it's also hard to remember that, like, we know each other, we know who we're traveling with, and, you know, we did our intro episode, but if somebody's just coming in the middle, they, you know, may not know, like, okay, well, Kirsten has a baby and a husband, and Beth usually goes with her boyfriend, and, you know, like, etc. So I guess maybe we should start kind of prefacing every planning episode with just like, here's who we go with, the end.
Yeah.
Right. And we always kind of want to like point out when we get iTunes reviews and stuff like that, not to like single anyone out or anything, but I know like when I leave a review on anything really, I always want whoever is listening to give me some kind of sign that they're listening, or you know, give some kind of feedback to show that they're making changes. And everything that we do here, we kind of want to interact with our listeners overall. So you tell us you think that we're doing something and we should do something else, we'll give it a shot. We're all ears.
Pun intended.
I was totally hoping someone would point out my pun there. Anyway, is there anything else you guys want to talk about this week before we get going?
Nope.
All right, sounds good to me. Thanks for joining us again on another episode of the Station 71 podcast. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes. Leave us an iTunes review as well so we can read it on the show. If you want to interact with us, be sure to like us on Facebook. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Station71pod. We're on Twitter at Station71pod, Instagram at Station71podcast, and you can send us your emails or listener questions to Station71podcast@gmail.com. We hope you enjoyed your ride, and we'll see you real soon.